Hello everyone and welcome back to another Schmeat video. I've been hesitant with my uploads because I have been in finals pretty much all week and I haven't had time to upload, but today I have a very special video. It is stay or trade, or just do I want him on my team, is basically the title of this video. I'm going to be going through the Hornets roster and saying if I want that player to stay on our team or get traded away or not sign him back onto the team for next season or the seasons to come. So first player, I'm going to knock out the givens out of the way. LaMelo Ball is an obvious one, and he might be the only obvious one just looking at our roster to stay or trade. Obviously, there's going to be other guys that I'm going to want to stay on this team, but he is the definite centerpiece, and he's probably the only one that's really not on the trade block, because even if you look at Terry Rozier, I think Terry Rozier is still kind of on the trade block. I think I don't know. It's going to be interesting as a Hornets organization what we do with Terry Rozier, what we do with Gordon Hayward, who I'm going to get to in this video. Next player we have here is Bismack Biyombo. Do I want him to stay or do I want him to be off our team? I want him off our team. I think the center position is the most replaceable position in the league. And even realizing a couple nights ago we played the Miami Heat, and just with Dwayne Dedmon on their team, he just made so much of an impact. And it just made me realize that, wow, we can get a center for so cheap. Like, we can get a center in free agency. We can get Nene, who stopped being good in 2015. We can get anybody that, I mean, Bismack's been good as of late. I will acknowledge that. He had that 5-block game. He's actually catching the ball, and he wasn't doing that at the start of the season. He wasn't doing that last year for us. He wasn't even doing that with us when he was here for the first time. He was with us with Kemba when in our Bobcats days. I want him off our team. I think we can get a center in the draft, although that's more of an uncertainty than getting a center in free agency. And let's skip to the other center here, Cody Zeller, which is a more interesting one because Cody Zeller did spend the last 8 years with us. We spent a first-round pick on Cody Zeller in the 2013 NBA draft, I believe. Cody Zeller's different. He is a Hornets lifer. If he doesn't get a contract from us, it's going to be a scary thing for him whether he gets a contract on any other team, honestly, because nobody's itching themselves in the back for not signing a Cody Zeller. He's either playing with us or he's playing with overseas, and I don't know how I feel about Cody Zeller, because although he's not a huge impact on our team, he has been with us through thick and thin. Not always putting up great stat lines. I think I referenced in my Vernon Carey Jr. video about a month ago now that the last 20-point game that Cody Zeller had was, I think, in 2019. So 2 years ago since he had a 20-point game, which is just crazy because everybody's scoring more in the NBA. And Cody Zeller is just a one-dimensional center. I would say Bismack has shown glimpses this year of being better than Cody Zeller, but I think Cody Zeller is still the better player, just offensively and a little bit defensively. I think Bismack Biyombo has him a little bit beat defensively, but regardless, that's the two centers. I didn't really give a definite opinion on Cody Zeller because I like the dude. He stayed with us through 8 years through those terrible teams. He wasn't on the Bobcats teams, but he stayed with us through those teams, and if we can get him back on the minimum, I'll say that. Anything above the minimum, probably not, because that'd just be a waste of cap space. So next we have PJ Washington, which is really interesting because PJ Washington is a second-year player, and to think of him being traded in his second year is kind of crazy, but I don't think it's out of this world. I really don't. It'll be interesting who our organization values as a whole and who they don't. Obviously, we have our center locked up for the future, but anybody besides that is kind of interesting. But I do think PJ Washington, for his future, his potential, I do still think he has more potential than Miles Bridges, although Miles Bridges, what he's shown this year is crazy. I think PJ Washington is just, he has a higher upside in my opinion. Next player we have here is Malik Monk, and that's an interesting one. If we can find a right sign and trade for Malik Monk, I think that's the best possibility. If we can keep him, that's fine too, but I think if we can use him as an asset to get maybe a Mo Bamba, who we just played, and he was super good. He was super long, pause. But if we can get a center out of Malik Monk, I think we should do that. Although he is a flamethrower on our bench, and especially in the first half of the season before he got injured, he was holding down our bench unit for a while. I would like him to get his money. This is a guy who got suspended last year. He was getting DNPs at the start of the year. He had that 40-point game, flamethrower off the bench for any team he goes to. He was in talks for a Montrezl Harrell and Malik Monk trade of some sort at the trade deadline. I would like him to get some money. He's been overlooked as an NBA player, not as a college player because he was a highly ranked recruit, but as an NBA player, he's been highly overlooked. Just for what he's been doing this season, he is pretty good. 3-point percentages. Obviously, he's not a very good passer. That's not what he does. But if he leaves, I wouldn't be upset because he would be getting a bag from someone, because someone is going to pay Malik Monk $15 to $16 million a year for averaging only 14 points per game. But seeing what upside he has, the Caleb twins. Or not the Caleb twins, the Martin twins. I was looking at Caleb Martin, are interesting. I think because you have to either let one or let both of them go. You can't let one of them go and keep one. I just don't think you can do them dirty like that. It's either they both go or they both stay. I wouldn't be upset if they both went. Obviously, they give you different stuff. Cody Martin is more of the defensive-minded guy, the pesky guy on defense. Can't really do anything offensively, and what Cody Martin lacks offensively, Caleb Martin tries to jack up shots for that lack of offensive from his brother. They're just really not good consistently. Like I think Caleb Martin had that 17-point game a couple nights ago. And that is probably his career high because they're just not really good bench pieces, and I think we could do a little bit better than them if we can keep at least one of them. At least one of them, because you can't play both Martins on the floor at one time, and it just makes for awkward lineups because the coach knows that. Obviously, Cody Martin is injured right now, and Caleb Martin's been the only one out there, and he's been looking good as the only Martin twin out there, so that's why I maybe think if we can... I don't know, because we can't. Nobody's gonna trade for a Cody Martin or Caleb Martin, but if we can just keep one of them, that'd be fine. Next person we have here is Jalen McDaniels. I am probably the biggest fan of Jalen McDaniels. I wouldn't say that. There's probably bigger fans than me than Jalen McDaniels, probably his parents, but I love Jalen McDaniels, guys. Like 6'11", has the body of a very good NBA player. And I'm not saying he's going to turn out to be a very good NBA player, but he's got the physique to be one. He is kind of raw on defense for the most part. He loves that corner three. That's his favorite spot. You saw it in the Magic game. He had that clutch three to really solidify the game. He's shown a lot of growth this year as a three-point shooter. As a defender, even though he is raw, he has that lateral quickness to make up for it. And I would like to keep him on our team. It's going to be interesting how these young guys like Malik Monk, like Jalen McDaniels, how they perform in the playoffs if they're given the opportunity. Obviously, Malik Monk is probably going to play in the playoffs, but a person like Jalen McDaniels, when Gordon Hayward comes back because he just got out of his boot, if he gets minutes, 12 minutes tonight, or 15, if he gets 15 minutes tonight, or if he gets 0 minutes tonight, I don't think there's any in between because it really depends on how we're doing that night. And I just want to see how he plays in big moments. He's played in a little bit of big moments, but it's kind of been overshadowed by LaMelo, by Gordon Hayward, by Terry Rozier in the clutch moments of games. And he hasn't had the ball in his hands. He's just been in the corner. But it'll be interesting for Jalen McDaniels, but I would like him to stay. see what he becomes. His brother Jaden in Minnesota has been super good this year, super underrated. And if Jalen can replicate that underrated behavior and really show out and grow this offseason and be ready in the next season, I'd be all for that. And I don't want to get to Gordon Hayward yet because that's going to be near the end of this video. But next person we have Miles Bridges. He started out the year kind of similar to how he ended last year before, stuff shut down because of COVID, where it was just like, he's going to dunk it. He might make 1-3 a game, but he didn't start out the year like, wow, this guy has shown a bunch of growth. But I made that video about him. You saw in that video the stats of 15 points or 22 points per game over the last 15 games and like 47% from the 3-point land. He has COVID right now, which kind of sucks because he'll be out for 10 to 15 days, and it's no telling how you come back from COVID. But it's going to be interesting how he readjusts in the playoffs. But as the topic goes, I would like him to stay. I don't think he's going to get the biggest bag this offseason because I think he is a restricted free agent or we have a team option, one of the two. I'll have to look it up after this video, but I do think we keep him just for what he did in the second half of the season when everybody was injured, carrying the team on his back. I still remember that Brooklyn Nets game where he had like 5 or 6 threes, just carrying our team, and that's what we need. And I think he is a bench player, even though he's shown out. I think he is a bench player. If we keep Gordon Hayward, which will be a big if going forward, but if we do keep him, I think he'll be a good bench player off the bench. And can you think of a better bench than obviously there's better benches than this, but for the sake of this video, Jalen McDaniels, Malik Monk, and Miles Bridges bench is a pretty high scoring, pretty electric bench overall. Can you imagine the dunks in the second unit? Like that's a pretty good second unit, and I would like Miles Bridges to be a part of that. Next player we have here is Devontae Graham. I thought he was that was the biggest player I thought was going to leave at the trade deadline was Devontae Graham, just because we have LaMelo. And although Devontae Graham, I love him so much, and I made that video before the trade deadline because I thought he was going to get traded. I made that video, and I was like, he is one of my favorite players because he was overlooked. He played in the G League his first season, showed out last year, really put everybody on notice, and then we drafted LaMelo Ball with the 3rd pick and kind of screwed him over just a little bit. Obviously, we had to draft LaMelo. It was a no-brainer. But for Devontae Graham's sake, it kind of sucked. He knew his spot was going to be taken over by this rookie. So in light of that, he is still going to get a probably sizable contract this offseason. It'll be interesting who goes for him. Probably the Knicks. I expected the Knicks to trade for him at the deadline. Maybe the Lakers as a backup point guard. I've said this for probably as long as I've been a Hornets fan producing content, is he is not a starting caliber player, not a starting caliber point guard on a championship team. He's going to be a backup if he is on a championship roster. He's just not the type of guy that's going to play major minutes in big games. Maybe he proves me wrong because he has hit clutch threes last season, but I don't see him being on a championship team and being the leader of the point. The point guard position is usually the leader. Probably not on LeBron's teams, as he's usually the point forward. But Devontae Graham's going to be interesting. So I would like him to maybe leave. I think it's for the best. I think we can easily pay other people more money than what he's probably going to be asking this offseason. He's probably, if I had to make a rough estimate, it's probably going to be in the 10 to 16 range. I don't really know what his value is, right? I don't really know what teams are going to ask of Devontae Graham this offseason. I don't. And I think the Hornets are probably going to lowball him. We didn't really pay Kemba the max. So what do you think we're going to pay Devontae Graham? Probably not what he wants to, be paid. And maybe he wants to stay in Charlotte, who gave him the reins last season. Maybe he wants to take a pay decrease and really be part of our team and be part of our future, even though he is a little bit older. But I think he does leave this offseason. I think it's written in stone. He either left at the trade deadline and we got nothing for him in this offseason, or maybe we do a sign and trade with the center, even better. But the last player that I think I'm going to get to, we're not going to talk about Brad Wanamaker. He's just not going to be with us, I hope. We're not going to talk about, Nick Richards, Grant Riller, Vernon Carey, even though I like Vernon Carey, or Nate Darling, as they're mostly going to be in the G League next year. Vernon Carey, maybe if he shows improvement in the offseason, can get some rep as a backup center. If we do give away Bismack Biyombo and Cody Zeller, maybe he can be a serviceable backup center next year, but I doubt it. I didn't get to Terry, which is another player where I wouldn't be surprised if we did end up trading him. He's a point guard in this league. I think that's pretty noticeable when you do. Obviously, he doesn't handle the ball too well. He has moves and everything, but I don't think he's a standard point guard. But I don't know. He's not big enough to be a two guard, and he played mostly point guard in Boston. And I think we might trade him. That's a kind of a hot take 16 minutes into this video. But I think we might trade him. And we could get a lot for him. He's not an all-star point guard, but he is a really good point guard in this league, and he showed that he can be a consistent 20-point per game scorer efficiently, clutch as hell. I've said he's the clutchest player in the NBA. I really don't have the stats to back it up, but that's just watching every game and seeing what he's been doing this year. He's probably the clutchest player in my eyes. But I think if the Hornets organization can find a really good trade for him, they might take it. And if it's for maybe a good center, I'm thinking of a trade that could happen potentially is maybe a Mitchell Robinson, a pick, like a first-round pick, and maybe 2 first-round picks. Maybe that's too much for Terry. Maybe that's too little for Terry. But I think a trade like that, the Hornets might, I think the Hornets organization, they realize that all their fans know that they need a center, and that's really what our whole fan base needs, is just that one missing piece, which is at the center position, because I don't trust PJ Washington to play the center spots, even though it is a small ball lineup league with the Golden State Warriors of a couple years ago. Then you got the Rockets of a couple years ago. And I guess the Nets are kind of small ball with Jeff Green running the 5 sometimes. But I don't trust P.J. Washington to run that small ball 5 for the whole entire game. I think the Hornets organization realized that they need to make a push for a center at some point. And maybe this offseason they trade Terry away to get one. But let's focus on the last player in this video, Gordon Hayward. And I'm already 18 minutes rambling about the Hornets, which is a good thing because I like talking about him. So Gordon Hayward is probably the most interesting player on our team to maybe get traded. I don't think it's talked about enough towards Hornets fandom that he could possibly get traded, but I think it might be written in stone. He's already 30 or 31 years old. I think he did have his birthday, so he is 31 years old. But you see his lack of enthusiasm on the bench. Of course, he's rehabbing from an injury, so he might not, he might be on painkillers and just not wanting to be there, which is totally fine. But this is a young team, and I don't think he fits our timeline. Terry Rozier is kind of on the cusp of fitting our timeline. He's 26 or 27, so he's not an insanely old player by any means, and Gordon Hayward isn't either, but 31 years old compared to a 19-year-old LaMelo. Do those timeline, by the time we actually might be able to get good, Gordon Hayward's already going to be 35 and regressing last year on his deal with the Hornets. So I think the Hornets organization, if they were to ever listen to me, which probably not, because I'd be telling them to make so many moves, but if they were to listen to me, I'd tell them to trade him away when he's really hot. Say he has a good playoffs, a good plan, and he has a good playoff round with the 76ers where we lose in 4, but he's putting up 25 a game. He has a good first half of the season next year. I say we could trade him at that deadline and really get a good return for him. He doesn't really fit our timeline. We overpaid for him, and I think a team would want a Gordon Hayward type on their team, a consistent guy who is just a mid-range shooter and can get his own, not really create off the dribble, but if he's being passed to, he can hit that mid-range shot. He has good moves. He's really developed his post moves over this year. Obviously, he had good post moves. He's not really posting up that much, but he is a 6'8", small forward. He kind of plays power forward sometimes for us because we do run small. But obviously, injuries are a big thing with him, which is one thing that I wasn't hot about with him this season. But I think he does get traded. I don't know. You guys will have to let me know what you guys think, but that's going to do it for me, guys. I'm probably going to rename this video like rambling on for 20 minutes about the Hornets roster or something like that. But yeah, thanks for watching. I'll see you guys later.